Here comes a shooter. Shooter. Big buck. Stag, stag, stag. What's up, fuckers? We are here in the Iowa Deer Classic for the 2020 Deer Classic. We are in the dungeon. If you guys don't know what the dungeon is, that is a room off of the regular main thing because they don't let people like us hang out with the general population. So this is where we are. So I am in the dungeon with my man
Stephen Clark
and
Mitch Vole.
And
Dave Sanders.
And where are you guys from?
We're from Iowa.
Well, no, I knew that, but like, where are you from? Like, what do you do?
Well, I mean, I guess we're the vice president and the tournament director of the Bowfishing Association of Iowa, and we're bow fishermen.
You guys are bow fishermen?
Well, we're deer hunters too.
So I mean, you guys shoot fish in the face?
I mean, not always the face, but we try.
We try. You guys face shooters?
Yeah.
All right. I love it. So these guys are from the Iowa Association, Bowfishing Association. Sorry, I can't read it all. It's the Bowfishing Association of Iowa here in Iowa. So let's tell us a little bit about you guys. Let's turn this key and really get this thing underway here. So, Mitch, you're from the local area here in Iowa?
Yeah, I'm from the tri-state area of Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa, right where they all meet up.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a maintenance mechanic at a foundry, and yeah, man, that's it.
I love it, dude. I love it. How about you, Dave?
I'm a plumber by trade, primarily HVAC as well. I live here in Des Moines. Yeah.
Oh, you're Des Moines.
Yep.
Oh,
Native.
All
right.
Wow, that's awesome. So what got you into bow fishing? What where did it all start, man? Let's start it off with Mitch.
It started on a Facebook video of a chick shooting a grass carp.
How come it had to be a
from
chick?
the bank? Oh man, I don't know. Raw, real, and sex appeal, I guess. I don't know.
Fistress.
Yeah, a fish. I was gonna ask, is she a fistress?
No, I don't even know, man. I just seen a video of it, and I was like, I'd just gotten my first bow the year before, kind of trying to get into bow hunting, and hadn't really bow hunted yet, but it seemed like an easy access to get into that world.
Well, not to be, you shoot elite, right?
Well, I do now.
I mean, I see that.
Yeah, I shot Bowtech then, regrettably.
Don't feel bad, brother. I did the same thing.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
We all been there, dude.
Yeah, I bought a 14-foot flat bottom. Like a couple weeks later, lights, generator, bow, and it's just progressed from there. Crazy.
That's awesome.
From the night I went out and shot my first fish, we didn't even have a trolling motor on the boat. We were just using, a tiller. And I just remember, I shot my first fish, and I screamed. Everybody in the immediate area had to have heard me. They thought something was going wrong, but man, it was a rush. And
how many shots did it take before you got your first fish?
it was spawn, but since we were trying to push them with a 2-stroke 15 horse, they were really running pretty good. So my first fish ever, I shot on the run. I lost the first one, and then the one I finally landed. And then, yeah, man, it's just, progressed from there. That year, a month later, sold that boat, bought another boat. And
so what I'm hearing, Trev, is, sorry, not to cut you off,
no.
but what I'm hearing is these guys only take 2 shots from the first time they ever try, and they're killing fish.
Oh.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard, too.
All right.
So, Dave, what got you into it, man? What started you off? Just get right on that mic, man. Don't be afraid of that thing. I know it's big and it's black and you don't really want it in your face, but just try to.
No, don't let him kid you.
So,
he loves it.
So when I was younger, my mom moved me to Oklahoma, so bowfishing's big down there. And I remember I was up visiting one summer and actually found an old bowfishing arrow in my grandparents' garage, and I didn't know what it was. I asked, and my dad said, "Oh, that was mine when I was a kid," So he gave me his old bow fishing setup and his old bow, and I fished a little bit down there as a kid, and didn't have much luck. I think I might have shot one fish, and then
Still don't.
still don't. Yeah. Then I moved up here, and I deer hunted for years and years. I still deer hunt, but I just thought in the back of my head, God, I'd like to start bow fishing again. So we went down to local archery shop down the road here and bought a bottle reel and got out there, and probably took me 2,000 shots before I got my
Okay,
first fish.
so he's honest.
Yeah.
He's honest.
Whoa. I'm a born natural. That's what that is.
That's the story, huh?
I said a few. I didn't say how many was a few.
I don't know. You did a really good job. You laid it out. The fish were moving fast. And on the second one.
The second fish,
Well,
not the second shot.
one you
I
landed
lost
the second.
first fish, yeah.
Yeah. How many arrows did you not hit the fish on?
Probably I went out one night, and then it was probably like the second night that I.
So we went from 2 arrows to
Whoa! I never said 2 arrows.
Okay, I'm joking.
That must be why he's the president of the association.
Vice president.
Oh, sorry, vice president. Oh, that's what it is. All right, let's get into that, man. What is the association? What does it do? And why are you part of it?
Well, the association, basically, we're responsible. Right now we're kind of rebuilding it. It's been a kind of a deal and a half of what's really been going on with the club as far as drama and a lot of other things, but we're trying to move past all that. Our main goal is to just run a couple tournaments, and my main goal,
fun.
and have some fun, bring a group of
the
guys.
enjoyment back
right,
into
exactly. And I'd also like to be able to eventually be able to move forward with laws and such, and all that kind of stuff to
Be proactive
and help
yeah.
bow fishermen out. We're not really in a position to do anything like that right now, but that's the goal, is to get a group of guys big enough together.
Bro, what are you doing over there?
It's a hand dryer.
Oh.
That's what I was told.
Is that what that is?
That's the story.
So with the association, how many members are in the association?
So I was vice president 2 years ago. I think we had 64-ish. I think that was the number. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Right now we are kind of at zero.
Yeah.
We're starting from ground zero
really?
again. Yeah, last year they didn't even finish out the tournament series, and our main goal isn't really. The tournaments are a big help for the club as far as monetizing and the club making money and such, but
Remember, we're non-profit.
right, yeah, it's a non-profit.
Right.
Most clubs are, but
That's
yeah.
important, though.
Right, yeah. We're just trying to. Eventually we'd like to be able to give back and do something for bow fishermen in Iowa, but we really got to just.
I think it's important, especially with the progressively growing sport of European carp fishing in its own, is to have an organization like this to kind of stand for. And I think, especially with us out east, with the bow fishing scene, it's a tough thing, man, because we didn't have something like that. So moving forward, as this progressively grows and it starts to move out west, they need to understand that they need some type of wall to be hitting to at least balance something out, because obviously you guys have way more invasive fish than we do. Tremendously.
Right. And to pretend even common carp aren't invasive and ruining other fish's habitat and such is, you're turning a blind eye to it.
I think that they're being very, they're turning a blind eye to it, and they're just not
Exactly,
educating themselves to fully.
Right.
Well, yes. Do I think that there should be some type of regulation? Absolutely. Should there be, and I think that bow fishermen as a self, also going along with the association, is advocating for those who don't do wrongfully things while bow fishing, because that's a big thing.
And it's like any other sport, you have,
Of course.
anything, you have people that are always going to push limits, push boundaries, maybe break some rules.
Does that stuff directly affect you guys?
It does.
It does. Yeah, definitely. I've rolled up on it before, where I've seen dead catfish on the bank before. Catfish aren't legal in Iowa. It's on the river. So, we border Wisconsin, Iowa. So if you shoot a catfish on the Wisconsin side of the river, technically you're legal if you have a Wisconsin license.
Right.
But, if you dumped in on the Iowa side, it's not legal.
It's wherever you.
Right. It's really mixed because every state's actually different. Like, so Illinois is like buoy to buoy.
Right.
But Wisconsin's train track to train track. And there's train tracks pretty much run all the way up the river. Yeah. So you got to know your regulations, definitely, as far as that stuff goes. And, obviously, if we hold an Iowa tournament on the river, we don't allow catfish to be brought back into Iowa because we're fishing under Iowa rules. But say I go out and dump in on Wisconsin side and I have a Wisconsin license, and then
You have to have an actual fishing license?
to bowfish,
So it's underneath the bowfishing regulations.
Yep.
I mean, underneath the fishing regulations.
Yeah,
Correct.
yep.
And that's another thing. To allow the people to know this is that you're buying a fishing license, which goes into conservation, which you guys might not be fishermen, but bow fishermen, you're still contributing into it just like everybody else who is a fisherman.
Absolutely. Yep. We plan on actually, we're going to try this year kind of something new that I've seen one other time, but we're going to try to get the DNR actually out there. We're going to try to get some coverage maybe from a local media station where maybe we're holding a tournament to just kind of explain to folks, because I think there's a big issue. I mean, you got the bright lights, the loud generators. I have a fan on my boat. It's not quiet. I know that. I try to be considerate, but,
It's not easy.
Right, exactly. And, there's houses on the rivers, there's houses on the lakes and stuff, and I'm sure people are upset about it, but they also need to understand the good that we're trying to do as well. I mean, granted, yes, it's extremely fun, and if it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. I mean,
Right. Of course.
there was no benefit as far as that. I wouldn't be involved in it, but, ultimately, it's a win-win for everybody as far as, if you enjoy, any kind of fishing outside of...
Archery.
Right, and archery, in general. I mean, on top of, any bow that's bought, Pitt and Robinson Act, you're donating back to conservation and sports in general, just doing it. So.
You're just an outdoorsman just like the rest of us, man.
Exactly.
It's not, so they need to understand that. So you guys do tournaments together? I mean, you guys fish together? And,
We're
or
going
you,
to.
is that a
We've
new
done
thing?
one together so far.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, Dave, you've done a lot of tournaments also.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what kind of tournaments? Break down a tournament for me. So what do they do there? What are like the regulations? I guess I know, but let's explain it to everybody else. Like the Big 20, you say, or the Big 5, or whatever the case may be. Because I know there's like species specific tournaments. Say you have to shoot a gar, you have to shoot a goldfish, you have to shoot a carp, so on and so forth. So explain a little bit.
So
about
someone
the
like
tournaments.
me has no clue what that is.
So most tournaments are ran, Big 20 in numbers format. Something we're looking at doing this year is changing that format up. A big thing we had a conversation with as far as the tournaments go this year, the getting smaller boats, getting smaller teams involved, opening up a Big 10 tournament rather than a Big 20, because anybody can shoot, 10 big fish in a night versus 20. Some guys may not be able to get on 20 good fish in a night.
Gotcha.
We travel around. We do some of the national tournaments too, not just in the state of Iowa, but
South Dakota, Missouri.
South Dakota, Missouri. We were down in Louisiana last year.
Nice.
Oklahoma the year before. Minnesota last year.
Wisconsin,
Yep,
Illinois.
Wisconsin. Yep, we
We hit
travel a
most of the
lot,
local
but
ones, but hit some bigger ones too. I mean,
there's a big void in the state of Iowa. We're surrounded by two big rivers, obviously on each side of the state, and that's something where our club. I came into this, I guess, and I know Mitch did too. To better the club, better the state. Give a better avenue for bow fishermen like ourselves to go out and compete if they want to try a competition. But also have an association or someone to go to when they have questions. For the in regards to bow fishing and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, most tournaments are Big 20 or numbers. Big 20, obviously, you take your 20 biggest fish at the end of the night, and you weigh them in at the end. Usually we pay out for second, third place. Numbers, most fish you can shoot. We've seen anywhere from 100 fish shot in a night to 500 fish shot in a night.
That's a pretty dangerous thing, though. Putting that many fish into a boat, though.
You gotta watch it. Yeah, absolutely.
I've been close a few times to sinking my boat. A few more times than I'd like to admit, anyway.
There's a lot of risk involved when when you do things like that. Definitely try to advocate for people. If you get a full boat, you should probably go back to the truck and dump it.
And you're allowed to do that, though?
Yeah, so the way that we enforce it, at least, is, I don't know, as long as nobody steals fish. I mean, I've gone and dumped them in another barrel, like in the truck or whatever, just to.
Do you check their trucks before and check the barrels and make sure that they're all
there's
empty? Because I know that obviously tournaments can get kind of slimy sometimes. So you gotta be.
And I mean, here's my whole thought on that is if you got to cheat to win, that's your loss. Because I've never had to cheat to win and I've won. So
right.
I mean, there's always going to be people that push the boundaries and push the rules.
You've won a couple of big tournaments, though.
I've never won a big one, but yeah, last year, I mean, we came home with $2,500 from the AMS and one place out of the money for that. And that's,
what was that big fish? You got a big carp, right?
Yeah, 43-pound common.
How close is that to the record there?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm guessing their record's probably closer to 50, I would imagine. I mean, and that's...
What was it exactly?
I think it was 43-1, I think. I'm pretty certain.
Our state record's 43-12.
Yeah, man. That is, for common carp,
that's a giant.
It is giant.
And that's what I'm saying is that that's our state record, our actual fishing state record. That was caught rod and reel.
Right.
That wasn't even shot with a bow. And that's one thing in Connecticut is if you, no matter caught rod and reel or shot with a bow, it's the same regulation because it's a fishing license. And I know some states...
Iowa doesn't do that.
There's a bow fishing side and then
as far as I know, they don't really recognize bow fishing records as far as I know.
Really?
I could be wrong.
With the state itself.
Yeah,
because there's another association that has its own records, right?
The Bow Fishing Association of America does do record keeping of bow fishing records throughout the whole United States. And then each state usually...
Most states
actually recognize the BAA records. The BAI is a little bit different for whatever reason. Our records don't exactly match the BAA records. It's something we're going to work on and try to make match because it doesn't really represent your state very well if your club... I mean, I hold the club record smallmouth buffalo record right now, and it's 34, and our actual BAA site record's 60. So it's yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take the club record just because I want to hold a record, but
right, of course.
I know for a fact that it's not really, and it doesn't hold much.
That's a big thing with the club that in the past has been issued. Records have been issues, and actually, I think the plan is to open up records to the entire state. Member or non-member. Before it was members by membership only. You could get a state record, but we're planning to open it up. To everybody. I mean, there's no reason to keep it as an inclusive,
right.
Deal. So
it's, yeah, I don't know. It's just we've been just trying to sort all that out. It's a lot of messing around with that kind of stuff.
And that's the legalities, and that's what a club like yours would do, honestly, is dealing with that stuff and making sure that those things happen.
Right. And in the past, I'm not going to say it's been neglected. It's just what other people's idea of what they want and whatever. We're just going to try to make it as fair and good as possible, I guess.
Right.
Run some good, clean tournaments. We're hoping next year we're going to hold 5. I really want to hold 5 tournaments next year. A lot of other states have the opportunity to hold what's like a statewide tournament.
Okay.
Iowa doesn't allow that. You have to pay per body of water. So, each pool in the Mississippi River between lock and dams, it's considered a pool, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to, what's it go down to, 24 maybe? Starts, I don't know. Either way, whatever. Our pools go from 9 to 20. Each individual pool you have to pay for a separate permit.
Through the state of Iowa.
Yes. Yeah. It's only $25 a piece, but to open up every body of water in the state of Iowa
Right.
is going to be an astronomical cost for the club. So we're going to try to work it out, hopefully with the DNR. Otherwise, we're just going to have to bite the bullet and pay. We're not going to open everything if we have to bite the bullet and pay, but open up some bodies of waters. We want to do 4 regional shoots, like northwest, northeast, southeast, and southwest, and then a centralized shoot at the end of the year as a state championship if we can find, we'd like to do a money added sort of deal, $2,500 guaranteed, and then whatever happens on top would be really nice. You get a bigger payout like that, you attract a lot more people from other states. It's good for the club. It's good to have competition. It's no fun going out and shooting against a couple boats. I could call my buddies and do that,
It's good for the local economy
right,
too.
yeah,
In the state. You get.
Yeah,
30,
I would like
40
to.
boats.
I would really like to see the numbers that something like the U.S. Open would bring into a city that it's held out of. I mean, you got Table Rock Lake and all that this year for the U.S. Open, and man, guys are going down there for 3-4 weeks. I mean, it's $25,000 to win, but guys are going down to scout for 3-4 weeks, months,
they're
man.
sleeping down there.
They're
They're
sleeping
putting-
down there. They're buying
eating.
food. Yeah, I mean, literally, they're practically living down there.
And it's kind of crazy, and I'm glad that you go over this, because when it comes to like the European carp fishing, for example, and I hate to keep referencing it because I really don't want to put you guys in the same token, but it's something I know. So with those tournaments, it's the same exact thing, and they're bringing in big money too. And I understand why they get upset and why the bow fishermen get upset, because they're honestly doing the same thing for the economy that they're in. I mean, like back home, they do one on the Connecticut River, and it's $100,000 payout if you break the state record during the tournament.
Yep.
Some of the payouts $25,000. These guys use 100 different teams. I mean, they do the same things that bow fishermen does, and I understand why they get upset. But why can't we all just work together? And
Well, it's just like it's gun hunters versus bow hunters. It all boils down to the same thing. I mean,
because the real heart of the bow fishermen aren't doing what is shown in the media, we'll call it. And those are the outsiders. It's just like hunters in general, the guys that are poaching and stuff. Those guys aren't sportsmen. They're not hunters. And it's the same with the honest, good, into the sport outdoorsmen bow fishermen.
Absolutely.
So being in the East, we only have a couple different fish to shoot, obviously, on the entire coast. Snakehead, so on and so forth. We don't have the variety in a small area that you guys would have. So what are some of the fish that you guys would be shooting here?
Hold on a minute.
Oh, you're going to pull up a list?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up our...
Dave, start spitting them off, and then he'll
Yeah.
throw them. Let's do that.
Largemouth buffalo, smallmouth buffalo, grass carp, long-nosed gar, short-nosed gar, spotted gar. There's goldfish, koi, suckers,
common carp,
Oh man, there's
Big
a lot.
head.
shad,
big heads,
big head,
Yep.
silvers,
Yep.
white suckers,
Yeah.
quillbacks.
Red horse suckers.
I mean,
It goes to show how many actual invasive species are out here, and a lot of people don't understand that there is a lot of invasive species, and all of these are invasive species that the DNR does not want in these waterways. And as bow fishermen, you guys are there to fix that.
right, and even if they're natives, I mean, the population of them explodes so quickly versus other fish. I mean, they get so big and so, they hold so many eggs in the spawn in the spring that even at a minimal percentage of survival through the whole spawn.
Something I didn't know, but I learned a few years ago. The common carp, they're not native to the United States. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Nope, they come from China.
From China and Europe. Yep. Then there's a couple offshoots of the common carp. Leather carp, mirror carp. Those were bred by
The kings and queens of Europe. And what they were bred for is they would eat them. That was a big thing in the kings and queen times in Europe. And what would happen? I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to take it.
No, it's good.
So
we're learning.
as they breed them, what they would do is they bred them so that the scales would fall off them, so that it was easier for them to eat. And the reason that they came over here from Europe was in the times of all of the mill works, when they had sent over the poverty people from Europe to work in the mills here. A lot of the mill ponds, rivers, streams had them in there for food for the poverty people that lived here in the United States. And now they've become an invasive species, and really, I mean, look at some of the Great Lakes, man, and what they actually do in these areas with the dust control. I mean, we call it, but the silt control, in the shallows and so on and so forth. I mean, they really put a damper on some of the waterways up there. I mean, those guys. I mean, look at the longliners that are up in the Great Lakes, gill netting these things. I mean, they're doing 100,000 pounds a week. I don't know actual numbers, but I mean, a lot, dude. Yep. So, I mean, you guys as bow fishermen are doing your part on a local level, and it's definitely important, and it's definitely needed.
Yeah, I just hope that we never, we have that whole Mississippi with, I mean, it's the lifeblood of a lot of commerce and such. I just hope that we never get the Asian carp the way that they are in certain places. I mean,
yeah, it's getting bad. The Asian carp crisis is,
it is destroyed. I mean, Kentucky.
Because what are they saying? Asian carp are spawning at 3 times the rate of a common carp or more.
They're saying that they spawn up to 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, and they get huge. I mean,
that's incredible.
Right.
And then now they're taking away the food source for the smaller fish. Yep. And then they're just taking it over.
Well, they filter feed. They take all the food out of the water for the bait fish, which ends up.
They eat fry too.
Right. It ruins
everything.
Yeah.
All right, enough about all this crazy man pajama. So doing tournament fishing, man, like what do you guys do to prepare? So like you guys know there's a tournament coming up. What are you doing step by step right off the bat? Like I know the endurance, but are you looking for tides? Are you looking for certain areas? Like what so say I know you guys do a lot of local tournaments, but if you were to go somewhere else, say another state to try and bow fish, what would you do? Like how would you prepare for this? What are you trying to do? As far as find structures and so on and so forth?
I guess that kind of depends on if we're going to fish a lake or a river.
Okay.
If it's a river, we're going to really watch water levels, I would say.
Aerial maps are key.
Right. Looking for, basically if I'm going to start a big tournament as far as like scouting, I'm going to look at the maps as far as like what are red zones. So red zones are areas you can't be in. So I'm going to eliminate all those right away, which are usually areas that I really want to be in, of course.
That's why they put them there, man.
Yeah, so, we'll look. You're going to want to find good grassy flats, with
sand
usually,
flats.
Right, yeah, sand flats on the river, definitely sand flat islands with grass, and that's going to hold a lot of fish. But, man, it's like there's so many variables. The time of the year, how much rain. You guys deal with tide out there a lot, which something that I have no experience with, to be honest with you, but we do deal with heavy rain. You can scout for 2 weeks straight and get 6 inches of rain the day before the tournament, and you are pretty much up shit's creek, man.
It's done.
Your plan A through D through Z is gone, man. It's crazy how it happens, and it seems like that's always what happens when you're trying to prepare for something like that. I guess for a big tournament, I want to be out there, at least a couple guys out there a week in advance, and they're just going to hit it hard. They're not even really going to fish that much. They're going to just be basically on the big motor. They're going to be hammering through, looking for fish, finding fish. Where are the fish? What kind of habitat are the fish in? If they can find, some similarities as to where, with the time of the year, where the weeds are at and such, usually you can get a pretty decent baseline then. And then once you kind of have that, you can go back to the aerial maps and be like, all right, well, in this area with X amount of, cover or whatever the bottom is on that piece of water, I guess, or whatever. And you just kind of start circling shit and sending guys there. And, what did you see?
Yeah,
it's a team effort, man. Especially,
once you find them, then you kind of get an idea. Okay, this is the habitat they want to be in right now.
Right.
Now, I've said that 1,000 times, and it seems like every big tournament I go to, I find them, and then the day before the tournament or the night before the tournament, something happens. At that point, you find yourself tournament night just going by the seat of your pants and hoping for the best. And I think that's how a lot of the bow fishermen are in tournament fishing.
I think a big thing that's killer as far as tournament stuff is you'll scout throughout the week when there's not a lot of boat traffic, not a lot of fishermen out there, and then you'll get out there on a Saturday and it has been piss pounded by people fishing, people pleasure boating, and you're like, where'd they go? I mean, there's been plenty of times we've gone out Friday night and we could have just hammered fish all night long, and then you get out there Saturday night when the tournament is, and it's either muddy or blown up, and it's just there's been boats in and out of there all day, and you just shake your head and you just got to do what you can. That's all you can do.
One thing that gets missed a lot, I think, by teams too. A lot of these places we go, you have zero cell reception. So me personally, I like to find gas stations. I like to find places to eat, ahead of time if I can, because nobody wants to be in, like this year we're going to be in the Ozarks. Nobody wants to be in the Ozarks with no cell reception and not know where gas is at, especially towing a boat.
On our way to put in the water for the AMS last year, we fucking ran out of gas on the way to the lake. We thought we were going to make it. We were like, I don't know, half a mile from a gas station. We had to pull gas out of a generator, put it in the truck to get to the freaking gas station. So I was like, yeah, man, it's like what can go wrong will go wrong. Yep. Absolutely.
That's just insane.
Yeah, dude. It's
another thing too, energy drinks. Stocking up on energy drinks.
I will drink a 12-pack of Red Bull in a night, no problem.
That's crazy. That like in the fatigue and it really wears on your body. Day in and day out.
It's hard to keep a team together after 12 hours of fishing together on a boat in a night. After a week of scouting together, you're ready to strangle each other, to be honest.
Oh, come on. I'm sure you guys got more love than that.
I bet you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all love at the end of the day. Everybody just wants to succeed and do their best. And I think it's really driven. The sport is not really right now driven that much by money. So, as far as it sounds bad, but ego drives a lot of it.
It does.
It really does. And
these big tournaments, big money gets thrown around too.
Yeah,
outside of the
there's a lot of side bets going on and such like that because the money's just not there. It's not like you go to a bass tournament. It's like, it's $150,000 to win. Like, no, these guys are spending the same amount of money on boats, if not more, trucks, all that, and then they have 4 guys on the boat that have been there, and then the pots are $25,000. A bass tournament's what? Some of them are $100,000
Oh,
plus
absolutely.
to win.
It's huge.
Right.
Yeah,
There's no professional in bow fishing, but guys are.
There's some professionals.
Yeah, exactly. And we ain't that.
So what does it take, man, to build a boat like that? It's definitely a lot of time.
You can go a lot of different avenues as far as it goes with boats. You can buy a hull, build your own, which is kind of like what I did, except I'm going to tell you what, man. Next one, I'm just going to have somebody build.
Just find a boat builder and build it?
Yeah. Because
I see you always building something. Yeah, you're always making
exactly.
something.
And that's the problem. I want to fish. I don't want to build a boat. It's part of it. I like tinkering with stuff and building shit, but
it's a lot of work.
Exactly. And it's frustrating.
And wiring everything.
Right?
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
And then you're the only one that knows how to fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
so
the
you're
one
out there,
who built it, right?
You're out there screaming, yelling.
Oh, yeah. You don't have the right tool.
Yep. Or you lose your channel locks in the water.
Oh, boy.
That's one thing, being over water also. So is there anything you guys want to leave the guys with? The listeners.
If you haven't tried bow fishing, man, get out there and try it.
Try it, yeah, definitely.
Just give it a shot.
Get your kids involved.
It's a fun sport for everybody, definitely.
It is a good thing for youth. You actually brought up a really good point at that, man. And is bringing kids, man, is a huge thing. And it's very easy. Like, you have a little one. Does he go out with you?
He loves it. He's addicted.
Really?
Yep.
He's constantly out there. And how old is he?
He's 4.
And he's out there shooting with a bow. Slinging arrows, anyways.
Slinging arrows, yeah. Shooting anyways.
And it's important to him. That's his lifestyle.
Yep.
He's looking at us all crazy. He's like, oh, man.
He loves it. He's getting my daughter, she's 3. she's starting to get obsessed with it. I haven't taken her out yet just because she's, I don't know, she's my princess and I don't want her to fall in.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
get you.
a little more protective of her than him. But
That's a danger. It's also dangerous, man. There's
It
a lot
can
of
be,
there's a
yep.
lot of dangers that go into it. I mean, not only I know like we have friends that do a ton of stingray shooting, and the problem with that is that the barbs and it's definitely dangerous trying to put them into the boat, so on and so forth. But also some of the other dangers I think a lot of people don't think about is falling off the boat, getting ran over by the boat. You could obviously explain on more things that are kind of more dangerous.
The biggest dangers that we run into as bow fishermen, obviously on rivers, is rock bars. The water's always changing. Log jams. You just you never know. If I had to tell anybody anything though, would be wear a life vest. Our sport has had in the last few years a few big name guys that been on the water all their life and unfortunately have lost their lives to the sport they love, and and it was that one freak occurrence where they didn't have their life vest on and
a little bit of complacency. It'll kill every time.
Yep. That's something I get on a lot of guys about. Wear your life vest. You don't necessarily have to wear them when you're shooting, running the trolling motor, but if you're a big motor and especially at night, we're out in the dark, you can't see nothing. Getting that.
That's definitely a dangerous thing, like you're saying. Running into log jams. Logs floating down the rivers. You don't know what's out there, man.
Yeah.
And the water is a very dangerous place, man. I live on the water, in the summer, and I'm constantly running in the ocean, and it's one of those things, man. Other boats, people, sandbars. I don't care. A GPS doesn't show you like where there's a log floating down. A million and one things could be in the water, dude. And you never, a refrigerator. Who the fuck knows what you can find in the water in some of these rivers, man? You guys could probably.
Cars.
Where your bow fishing is the inner city. Most of the time, especially here in Iowa.
Yep.
So it's like, it's kind of crazy. You never know what you're going to find in there. So if you are big motoring and you crash into something, there's someone's life. It's no joke. I know. There's some bass fishermen that one guy actually lost his son. He fell out of the boat and got ran over, man. And that's no joke,
You got to respect it.
You got to really respect it. There's no joke. So, but guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do some bow fishing, and hopefully there'll be you guys are very successful this season.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep influencing people. Keep getting the kids out there because that's the future. And ultimately, we want to thank you guys for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Oh, timeout. What do you want to say?
Check us out online on Facebook, Bowfishing Association of Iowa. Give us a like. Appreciate you guys' time. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Check them out. Follow along.